afternoon, guys. This is Shatanya Ami here on A Pursuit to Happiness, and this month is Suicide Prevention Month, and so all this month I'm talking with amazing people within the um, mental health industry, and they're just going to be telling us about different things that they're doing to help people dealing with mental illness, dealing with mental health, dealing with depression, stress, anxiety, any tips that we can give that can help prevent suicide. So today I'm speaking with the amazing Patsy Dolan Bouressa, and Patsy is the head of the Sims Foundation. So I'm going to have her talk to you guys a little bit about what the Sim Foundation is, and then we're going to dive in and get to know Patsy and her personal experience with suicide and what she's doing for the music industry to help people with mental illness. So, Patsy, here's to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Shatanya. I appreciate it.
Of course.
As Shatanya said, I am the executive director of the Sims Foundation, and we are a nonprofit currently located in Austin, Texas, and we've been here for 25 years. And we are actually the only nonprofit of its kind in the entire United States. So what we do is we provide mental health services and supports and substance use recovery services and supports to anyone who is a professional musician, a music industry professional, and their dependent family members. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
Okay, that's amazing. It's funny because when I was introduced to you and I read about what you did for the music industry, it was perfect because that's basically the reason why I started my podcast, because I wanted to reach out to people that was within the industry, within the fashion entertainment industry, because people don't realize how much stress it is when you're working for yourself, when you're a creative, when you're an entrepreneur, and when you already have issues, like if you already have mental health issues or things like of that nature, how being in such an industry could be so stressful and have so many triggers connected to it. So that was the reason.
Mm-hmm. And so much worse right now during the pandemic.
Oh my God, yes.
Everyone in the music are just on hold, and
yes.
It's a scary time not knowing if their industry is going to come back.
Right, exactly. That's what I was thinking about with performers and like reference to concerts and stuff like that. Like, how does that look? What does the new normal look like? Like, I know for myself, the fashion industry was definitely on pause and like a lot of companies that I used to work with in reference to getting clothing for clients, they had to close their doors. A lot of designers, a lot of things changed, and like everyone's trying to really figure out what their new normal is. So
exactly.
it's really, it could be a really scary time. So that was another, but it definitely allowed me the time to be like, let me get this podcast going, because the people of our industry definitely need it, like need something to know that, okay, this is not the end, like, because that record will start playing in your head when you deal with anxiety, and no, that's not what we need. So, so I definitely wanted. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
The part that's frightening, I think, the most is, living in a town like Austin that you're used to walking down the street any time of day, any day of the week, and there's live music playing. And now all we hear is doors closing permanently. And so every time another venue announces that they can't just sit here not making any money and they can't keep their place open, it just causes a whole other level of stress and anxiety, because it's almost like you're just watching the death of an industry, like in real time.
It is. It really is. It's so true. Because like even when I walk around my neighborhood and I see little small restaurants and stores closing down, I'm like, wow, like, people weren't able to survive. There's so many vacancies in the area by me now, and I'm from New York, and walking down the streets of Times Square seems like a scene from like Armageddon or something. And you're like, wow, I would have never thought that Times Square would look like this, where Broadway shows closed down. Like, those people, I feel for them. Like, oh my God. like performing. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, like what, what's going to happen and what are they going to do? But, there is a way to cope with that. So that's what we're here to talk about. We went all doom and gloom.
That's true. Yes, absolutely.
So, what I wanted to ask you, Patsy, is, could you share with us your direct connection to mental illness and what that journey looked like for you, and what made you want to actually start doing this, and made you think to, start working with the music industry and supporting them and supporting their mental healing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my personal history, I guess the starting point was growing up in a household where my dad was an alcoholic. And so he has now thankfully been in recovery for many decades. But growing up in that environment, while none of us came out with like a diagnosed mental health illness or mental illness, we all definitely had some trauma growing up in that environment. But then watching my dad come out the other side and get healthy, so that kind of gave me both sides of the coin, where I was able to really see, people can get into recovery and can get better. And then when I was in high school, my uncle is a retired psychiatrist at this point, but I went to visit him where he was living in Florida, and really spent the summer with him learning about what he did, and hearing about his clients and the difficulties and the whole sort of system, and where it fails and where it succeeds. And so those were the two things that sort of led to me being interested in this field. And then I also had a very close friend in high school who attempted suicide. So that had a huge impact on me as well, feeling, hopeless, watching her go through such depression and hiding it from everybody, because of course there's a attached to these things, and then feeling like that was her only outlet. So those things really impacted me, and I graduated with a degree in psychology, but then sort of stumbled my way into a degree or a career in human resource management. A little weird step, but I did that for 15 years, and dealing with employee relations issues and caring about our employees in every job that I ever worked at. So in a way, it was like doing therapy and a little bit of doing kind of social work, case management some of the times, as people just struggled with life from time to time, like we all do. But once I completed my last layoff, thankfully, it was my 16th layoff that I had to conduct. I didn't want to do that anymore. And I had some time to sort of evaluate what I wanted to do in my next phase, and investigated different careers, and knew I wanted to go back to graduate school, and landed on social work, mainly because in my opinion, social work gives you a much more holistic look at things. So it's not like you're coming at mental health purely from the pathology of it. You're really looking at the whole person and every system that person comes in contact with. And you really work with them within that context, rather than saying, oh, you have depression, so let's just talk about your depressive symptoms and how to fight it, right? So it gives you a broader view. So I went into that, and initially was really thinking I wanted to work with children. And so I did. For 6 years, I worked at a residential treatment facility for mentally ill children, and I loved it. But after a while, it really was wearing, because these were very ill kids, and the families were just really struggling. And so I opted to change sort of my area, and I ended up going into the prison system. And I was in a state jail here in Austin with adult male felons, and it was a therapeutic reentry program that we created. And I did that for 5 years, and then I met a psychiatrist who was on the board of SIMS Foundation through work. And when their prior clinical director stepped down for retirement, he encouraged me to apply, and I did. And I've been here ever since. But, it was interesting when you asked, like, why the musician side of things, or the music industry. I honestly never really, I don't think I would have thought of that on my own as a path if I hadn't been in Austin when the SIMS Foundation was created, and I'd heard about it from the beginning. And in addition, I'm just a huge music lover. I love going to see live shows. so it felt like a natural fit. So that's kind of how I sort of meandered my way into this.
Oh, and I love that you were in so many different so many different areas with the children, with adults, and also with the prisoners, and then it's transitioning. I totally understand what you're saying, and especially with the human resource and the laying off people, like that has to take a toll on you. And I understand what you're saying with working with the children, because I remember growing up when I wanted to get into, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to school for child psychology. And then I wind up going to school for law, and then all these other different, and then fashion. But with me, I realized that dealing with children and trauma was so heavy for me, and I took on those their troubles, and I'm like, okay, this is not going to work for me, because I will constantly be sad and hurt, and then you can't go get revenge for someone who hurt the little kid. So it's like, okay, this is not going to work for me.
Even though
this isn't going to work. Yeah, so no, I think that's amazing. And so what I also wanted to ask, because I know you're working with the mental health and people within the music industry. And so I just wanted to know, how do you feel about how when artists like Logic, Demi Lovato, BB Rexa started speaking out about their struggles with depression and anxiety and mental illness and things of that nature? How did you feel with that impact of the just shining light on this trauma that's actually going on in the music industry, that people kind of like how you mentioned with your friend that you experienced the suicide, how it's always so secretive, and that is like a internal battle that people deal with secretly. Because I know another reason why I started this is because that's something that I dealt with. I've dealt with depression and anxiety and mental health issues since I was young, and my first suicide attempt was 14. And so you do keep these things bottled up inside a secret. I was a cutter. Everything was just hidden. So how do you feel about them coming forward and speaking up and shining a light on, like, this is what I'm doing. Yes, I am, a big star, and I'm out here and I'm singing music, but I do deal with these things.
Right. Every time anyone famous, regardless of the industry, has the courage to speak up and say, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is how I'm dealing with it, and this is where I haven't dealt with it well, I just rejoice.
Right.
I don't know how, when I was growing up, that I never understood this desire to keep this secret. So I'm not quite sure where I can put my finger on why I didn't just sort of follow suit with everybody else in society, that somehow this was something shameful. I never believed that. So it was always incredibly confusing to me when people would suffer. And then, of course, when I grew up and realized that there's this stigma attached to it, every time someone, this is who I am, I have this disorder, or I struggle in this way, it's chipping away at that stigma.
Right.
It's courage to be somebody to say that, especially when you are in the spotlight. I would imagine that there are entities out there who second guess working with you if you say you have this disorder, or maybe you have a history with substance use issues, and people obviously may want to shy away from you. But the more that people who are dealing with these issues every single day have the courage to say, hey, I have this, and I'm taking care of myself, so get over it.
Right, exactly.
We wouldn't hide if we had cancer. We wouldn't keep it quiet if we had diabetes, because nobody's going to judge you for that. And these things are more than other chronic illnesses. So every time people say what their struggles have been and how they've overcome them, and when I think about somebody like Demi Lovato, who had been so vocal about her bipolar disorder and her, I'm air quoting now, past substance use issues, to then be so open when she had a reoccurrence of use and had to go back to treatment, that was just, because that's part of that process for so many people. And there's no reason to shameful about it. So
No.
it makes me incredibly happy to hear people talking about these issues and having folks like you actually taking time out of your regular busy schedule to create podcasts to reach people and say it's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
It's okay to struggle this way.
Right. Right. No, and I totally agree with everything you're saying. And that is so amazing. And it's true. And that's the reason why I did it, because it's like it is, I want my podcast and I want people that's listening to know there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's okay that some days you're super happy, because I go through it myself. Some days I'm super happy, and then another day I wake up, or even within the same day, and it's like, and it boggles your own mind. And sometimes it's like, maybe even if people don't know if they're actually having symptoms, because sometimes we don't know. So here's a little bit of, just from my own personal experience. If you don't know if you may be dealing with bipolar issues, within, you go through many moods and emotions throughout the day. If you find yourself just crying for no reason, you can't pinpoint what the issue is, and you just feel overwhelmed and you feel over anxious, those are some signs that maybe you should go talk to somebody, because those are things that I've dealt with. I would be happy in the morning and I'll walk around, and then within the next, few hours, I'm sad and I'm mad and I'm angry, and I'm just going like, what's wrong? And I can't pinpoint it. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, did this person say something? That person say something? Or what's going on? I remember I used to have a lot of financial triggers. And then when I didn't have financial issues anymore, like, so what are you sad about? Like, you have money, you're fine, you're successful,
Right.
You have everything going on. Why are you still sad and just bursting out in tears for no apparent reason? And it was like, okay, go talk to somebody.
I think that's so important, because, and even past that, like, we all have those sort of ups and downs at times, and maybe we can point a trigger to it. But if you're still feeling badly in some way, there's no harm in getting a therapist to work through whatever life event is causing you pain. And that's the thing that I find so interesting, is it seems like people see that as a weakness in some way, but it's not. It takes enormous amounts of courage to say, you know what, right now my life stinks and I'm not doing okay, and I want somebody to help me.
Exactly.
And I think that's so much more courageous than suffering in silence, and really causing yourself so much harm and those around you harm, because they're watching you, but they don't know what's going on.
Right. Exactly. And then everyone is asking you what's wrong. You really don't even know what's wrong. So you don't even know how to answer it. I know what really helped me before even talking to someone was meditation. So that's one thing that really, really helped me, was getting a meditation practice. And it really, really helped with the anxiety. It really helped with the depression, especially when I couldn't pinpoint it. I'm like, okay, take some time, let's breathe, and let's meditate. And that really, really saved my life. I always say that meditation saved my life, because it literally did. Because the many days when I wanted to take my life and I had to get to a point of, okay, let's find the silence and the peace, it definitely saved my life. So that's
so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So I had another question for you. Okay. So what I wanted to know was, can you tell me what you guys at the Sims Foundation does for families and artists to support them? So what does that process look like when a family comes in or someone comes in? What is it exactly that you guys do?
Yeah, thanks for that. So basically, we have every single level of care that the United States healthcare system has to offer for mental health or substance use issues.
Okay.
So there is nothing that we don't have covered, in other words. And so if a person in the industry, or they're the dependent family member of someone in the industry, they become a client, and the first step is having one of our SIMS clinical staff members do an assessment with that person. And that's basically to help us as clinicians understand what the client is struggling with, kind of gain an understanding of maybe what's happened historically, not going super in depth, but like if they've been diagnosed with something before, or they've had bad experiences in counseling or hospitalization or whatever. Just gives us the background of the person and what areas need some help, I guess. And from there, we really spend a lot of time talking to the new client about what all of the things that are out there that can help them by way of services. So if somebody's calling us up and they're thinking, you know, everything they're telling you is, I want individual counseling, but they're really describing maybe pretty severe symptoms of some sort of disorder. Maybe they have unrecognized substance use stuff that's coming through in the assessment, you know, just other things that might point to a higher level of care. We'll discuss all of that with them. You know, like, yes, we can send to counseling, but there's also intensive outpatient programs, and here's the, you know, value in those. And there's group counseling, and here's the value in that. So we really take time to provide what we call psychoeducation around all of those levels of care. But then we advocate and support our client in their decisions. So we are not about telling people this is what you have to do. I can't tell anyone what they have to do. I think whatever level that somebody's comfortable with accessing in the moment is the level that they should go for. And that is actually the same way for substance use disorder. We don't subscribe to the idea that people have to go into residential treatment or what we call rehab. That doesn't work for everyone. And some people don't want it. And so why would we make you do that? So we really partner with our clients to make sure that their wishes are followed through. And then if at some point they decide maybe what they chose to begin with wasn't exactly what they need, then we'll move them on to something else. So basically the way that we work is we have what we call our network of providers. Those are either private practitioners doing counseling or psychiatric bed management. And then we have facilities that have intensive outpatient programs, partial hospitalization programs, and then acute hospitalization for psychiatric disorders. And then the same sort of on the substance use side, facilities that offer medical detox, residential treatment, partial programs, intensive outpatient programs. But we also support them in things like getting them into a recovery residence if they need a safe, drug-free place to live. We get them connected to peer recovery coaches so that they have somebody to help them navigate their system. And whoever level of care the client chooses, then we send them to the most appropriate SIMS provider. And all of that's done at little to no cost to the client. It really just depends on the client's situation, the level of care that they're accessing, and all of that. We just take the whole person and everything happening in their life into consideration when we connect them to services. But we don't just send them to the provider and then SIMS employees are done. We provide thousands of hours of intensive case management to our clients. And that could be things like helping them navigate the judicial system if maybe their situation has gotten them into legal trouble. It's helping them navigate other systems that might help them in other areas of their life, like if they're having housing difficulties or they have physical health problems, or maybe they're looking for education. So we help them with all of that, as well as supporting their loved ones while they're getting care. Because as you probably know, I mean, having dealt with mental health issues yourself, the people around you who loved you are really struggling as well, right? Watching this person that they love struggle so much. So we do a lot of counseling with loved ones of our clients to just support them while their loved one is getting help. So that's kind of the core of what we do, but we've also started being more of an advocate in the community for the music industry, especially during this time period. And really trying to push for an agenda to make sure that our music venues stay alive and that musicians will have a place to play once this pandemic is over. And we also have a lot of education for free to the industry around mental health and use issues.
I love that. That's amazing. I really love that. And I love the very in-depth of it all and, you know, figuring out what works for some people, because everybody can't, not one solution works for everyone. So I love how you guys are very layered into, you know, finding what's best and giving the person a choice. Because a lot of times if you don't choose to heal or you don't choose to, you know, seek the help, or if it's something that you don't want to do at that time, you're going to just, especially with the substance abuse, you're just going to relapse because you're not ready and it's something that's pushed upon you. So I love that you guys take the baby steps with them and, push them in the right direction and find what works for them. And especially like explain it to their family, because it was something like I had to explain to my father what I was actually dealing with, because he has no idea what mental health issues is, and he's very old school, and he especially in our community, it's definitely looked down upon. So no, I love that. I love everything that you guys do. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of it. And like I said at the start of this podcast, we literally are the only nonprofit in the nation of its kind. There are other pockets of really wonderful organizations that help with musicians with things like health care or access to insurance. There's lots of organizations that will help people in the industry fund substance use treatment. But there is no other entity that works with everyone in the industry, their dependent family members, and who are an active participant in the treatment and caring for those clients. So we are the only one out there doing this, and we're really happy that we're still here after 25 years.
Wow, 25 years. It's so crazy that I'm just hearing about it, and you guys been around so long. I love this. Well, more and more people are about to know about it now. So,
and it's interesting because we've been a really small organization for the bulk of those 25 years, but we changed our mission statement back in 2017 to be one that was more wellness driven and less price driven. With the inception of this treatment team that's been here since 2017, we've really changed the amount of case management and the community work that we're doing. And so that is slowly getting Sims more out there. So yeah, I'm really glad that you heard about us and wanted me to be on here, because we want to get the word out about what we do. We would love to be in every single music city in the nation.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The only way to get there is by, people finding out about it.
Right. Definitely. So also, I wanted to know, how can other people get involved in the Sims Foundation? Is it something, because I know you said it's nonprofit. Is it something where you have volunteers, or someone would have to apply for a job? How would someone get involved, or how could a person that's within the industry come in to apply? Like, do they need to be living in the state of Austin, or could they be anywhere? How would that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start with how to become a client. So right now, we only serve people who are in Travis County, which is where Austin is in Texas, and the 5 surrounding counties. But like I said, we do very much want to expand throughout the nation. So if somebody's currently living in one of those counties, they would just go to our website, which is simsfoundation.org, so SIMS foundation.org, and go to get support and become a client. And there's 2 forms there, and that starts the process. But what I would say is we also strive to be a support to anyone out there struggling with these issues. So we have spoken to people all across the nation, many of whom are even in the music industry. You Google mental health and Sims might pop up there sooner or later, and they call us. We will take the time to talk with that individual, gather as much information as they're comfortable sharing with a stranger on the phone, and then do the research for that person about their area of how to get the care that they need. It's a very, very complex, difficult, unfriendly behavioral health care system we have in this nation. So it is not easy to Google and find the help that you need, especially when you're not doing well.
It's so true. Oh my God. It's so true. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's so true, because even when I was looking for therapy, I went through a number before I found someone who was halfway good. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting on the couch like, this is really a nightmare.
It's really a complex system, and it needn't be. There's lots of there's very easy ways to explain all the levels of care, and we're more than happy to do that. So I would just encourage anyone out there hearing this, if you're struggling, you have questions, you can call us at 512-494-1007, and one of our clinical staff will absolutely call you back and help you navigate the system where you are. So we do offer that. As far as how to get involved, obviously we're a nonprofit, and so we rely on donations. So if you're able and interested, you can go to simsfoundation.org/donate, and that'll take you to our donate page. Volunteers for sure. Like right now, because of the pandemic, like everybody, there's not a lot going on, right? So we're not really able to be out and about in the community, which is usually how we used our volunteers. But if somebody's interested in getting on the volunteer list so that they're ready to go, you can also do that on our website. And you can sign up for a newsletter on our website. We're doing a really good job of getting that out monthly. It'll update you about partnerships we're forming with other nonprofits. As I mentioned, while we serve the music industry and their families, the music industry and their families don't only operate in the music industry. So we do a lot of partnerships with other nonprofits in the area who work in the area of mental health and substance use disorders. So we don't just stick inside the music industry. We really want to be in a community where we're an active community partner and not simply a music industry partner. So we do a lot of that, and that information will be in our newsletter on a monthly basis. I also would just encourage people, we'll get calls or messages. Somebody will read somebody's despondent sounding Facebook post or something they said on Instagram, and they'll contact us and say, do you know this person? Could you reach out to them? And of course, 9 times out of 10, we don't know the person. But I would encourage anyone who's reading something of someone they care about, or even if it's, your air quote friend on Facebook that you knew in high school a million years ago, reach out to that person. Even though they might tell you there's nothing wrong and they were just getting something out of their system. Usually post those despondent things unless you're in pain. And we have to get better as a community with just reaching out and saying, I read this, or I saw you and I'm concerned. I'm here.
That's so true. Because I just did a post like that on Facebook. I remember maybe last year or the year before last, I seen one of my Facebook friends, she had said like her post was so dark, and we don't talk on a regular basis, but I went into her inbox and I said, if you need to talk, here's my number, call me, let's talk, because it sounds so dark, and I've been in that dark place before, and I'm like, okay, no, let me reach out, talk to me, what's going on. And she gave me a call and we spoke, and she explained to me what was going on. But it's like just taking that extra step to let people know that you are aware of them and that they're not alone. And even like in my post, I said, when you ask someone how they're doing, mean it. Don't just say how you doing for that blanket response. Sometimes you have to dig. And when they say, if you hear it in their voice that they don't sound like they're okay, keep poking them like, are you okay? Let's talk. Because I've had situations like that with me where someone would ask me, my default was, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, oh, I'm happy, yeah, things are great. I was such a liar. And I remember saying I was a liar for 37 years, because for 37 years people would say, are you happy? And I would say, yeah, I'm happy, I'm great. I was not happy. I was the furthest from happy. I haven't been happy since I was 8. Like, lying. So it's really dig. Right. You become the professional, and everyone's like, but you're such a happy person. No, I'm a great actress. That's what's going on. So it's so true.
Especially now, we've all been isolated for so long, and even if you're an introvert and love staying home most of the time, this is even too much trapped in your house time for anyone. And so people are communicating more about their emotions on social media, and you do need to, if you care enough about that person to read their post to begin with, please take the extra 2 seconds to call or email or message them and say, hey, I'm here, you sound like you're in pain. We really need to get better about caring for each other, especially during this pandemic.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, Patsy, I'm so happy that you gave me some time, and you let everyone know what's out there, and that you guys are out there making such beautiful strides with helping people in the mental health community. And I'm so happy that you took out the time to talk to me. And I just want everybody to write down this information for the Sims Foundation and, get involved, donate. Hopefully soon we'll be able to actually get back out there and interact with people soon. Or I don't know, maybe you guys could start doing something virtually. I know this is the perfect time for virtual therapy. So I don't know, but however, let's get involved. Let's take what Patsy said to heart, where ask that question, get involved in people's life, get nosy, do what you got to do. It could save a life. Being nosy could save a life.
I love that. That's absolutely true. There's no harm in that. You're trying to help somebody.
Exactly.
I would say Foundation is on Facebook and on Instagram, so you can find us at Sims Foundation. But again, our number, if anybody has questions, needs help, it's 512-494-1007, and our website is simsfoundation.org.
Great. Thank you so much. And it was so amazing talking to you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
So what you're going to hear in this next clip is a discussion between me and Patsy right after our interview. I was discussing with her my experience with working with designer Kate Spade and Loren Scott and the tragedy of both of them committing suicide and people not understanding that people with money and people with success also have mental health issues and can deal with sadness, and the misconception that if you have money and you have success that you should be happy and you should have no reason to commit suicide. During the conversation, some key points were brought up between the two of us that I really felt that we should share with other people so that we can bring more of an awareness of what happiness really means and what it takes to actually be happy. And it doesn't come with a price tag. If you're rich, you are happy, and if you're poor, you are sad. Mental health does not discriminate between the wealth and the unwealthy.
To read people's comments that were, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry we lost this person, but then almost immediately start talking about how much money they had. And I was like,
right.
This is work to do if you really think that being a millionaire cures your mental health issues. Then clearly we have a lot to do with getting people to understand this is not about being homeless and destitute.
No.
This is about having chronic illness, plain and simple.
Right.
And until we get that stigma to go away entirely, we will continue to see that because, I remember seeing I don't remember what magazine it was in, about Kate Spade.
Right.
And a lot of road words inside of her gorgeous New York apartment.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's a really weird choice to show her gorgeous, clearly expensive place.
Right.
So right there, you're setting the wrong tone because it's automatically, she had all this money, what the heck did she have to be,
sad about? Right. I heard that a lot.
It's so sad.
Right. That's what I kept hearing with with the Kate Spade and the Loren Scott thing. And I'm like, oh, they have so much money. That doesn't matter. Like, you can have money and not be happy. Like, I've been happiest with no money. I've been unhappy with money. Like, money does not, create your happiness. And then there's so many other different layers of mental health issues that goes on. Like I was saying, when I worked with Kate Spade, she was very sweet, very happy, walking around, but never, you can't look on the outside and see what's going on the inside. And I hate when people just say, well, they got money or they have this, or, especially like you mentioned with in the article mentioning her house and mentioning this and this beautiful this and this beautiful that. Like, clearly it was something bigger going on. Like, it's
right.
It's like,
because I always, when I'm doing trainings and such, because I do try to drive home that certainly we have people who call us as clients who are just struggling with life right now. They don't have a diagnosable mental illness, but they are struggling, and we're so glad that they decided to get help. Right. But when you're looking at a true illness, it's a chronic illness that's never going to go away. It requires work. And I always use the analogy of having diabetes because that's also a chronic illness. And as long as you work at it, you can maintain a healthy lifestyle and be okay. Right. But nobody would say this Kate Spade, this wealthy designer, had some sort of relapse with her diabetes. And how could that be? Because she has a lot of money.
Right, right. It's the truth. It's the truth. You would not say that. Or this wealthy person has cancer, or this wealthy person, like, no. But that's why another part of my podcast is the pursuit of happiness, because people need to realize things do not make you happy. And as long as you keep trying to acquire things to find your happiness, you will never be happy. So that's the problem. That's the mindset that needs to be changed and shifted, is that acquiring things are going to make you happy. When I get the money, I'll be happy. When I get the job, I'll be happy. When I get the car, I'll be happy. When I get the success, I'll be happy. No, when you make the choice to be happy, you will be happy. And when you make that choice and you make those, choose every day to find happiness in the smallest things that you have. Like I always say, you're breathing, be happy. You're not on a machine breathing. There's people that's on machines that need to breathe. You have eyes, you can see, you can walk. You can walk into the kitchen and go get a glass of water. Those are things to be happy for. So when you start living in a place of gratitude, then you can attract these other things that you thought was going to bring you the happiness. That, right. And that's the part that I really want other people to understand as well. Like, you create your own happiness, and it's not through things.
No, it's not. Sometimes that happiness, as you well know, actually being in such dark places, requires work.
It does. It's a lot of work.
It's hard freaking work. And sometimes that may mean taking medication if that's what works for you.
Right.
So, I mean, that more and more having people like you, Shatanya, who are out there talking about their own story and then creating an avenue to discuss these things openly and reach people who may never, ever, ever have thought about this or been willing to think about it in the past. Mm-hmm. It's so important. And anytime you ever need anything from us, if you want to do something specific, if you want us back on, we're absolutely here to support your podcast.
Oh, thank you so, so much. Oh, that's amazing.